So how do you merge this with your apparel? What happens?
So
what's the spark in your head that says, okay, this is how can I take what I'm good at? I want to run a business and I want to do it in a field I know and love, but I also want to help kids. How do you combine them?
I spoke to my sister, and at the time my nephew was 14. And we were discussing, she had just moved to Maryland at the time, and we were discussing how's the move, how's everything going, how's Kyler, my nephew. And she was like, oh, Kyler, he's into some stuff right now. I was like, what do you mean? Yeah, I went through his phone and saw some disturbing things, some text messages, and she dug in, and it was found out that my nephew had been being bullied. Mm-hmm. And so I started looking into it, and I was like, wow, this is a problem. Maybe I can focus my company around this, and kind of the direction of how that went. And so what I started doing when I focused that, okay, I want to do this. I'm going to give a percentage of all sales to an anti-bullying charity. And I teamed up with Megan Meyer Foundation, which is out of St. Louis, and Tina Meyer, which is the mom of Megan Meyer, started the foundation in memory of her daughter Tina or Megan that committed suicide because of cyberbullying. And when she committed suicide, she was right around the same age as my nephew, and I don't think he was getting bullied near to the degree she was.
Sure.
But nonetheless, I focused on that. And for the first 6 months, that's what we did. And it progressed to, we launched in July it took me about 9 months to
get it up and running,
to get everything together, the concept and everything, the production, everything, the website. So we launched and everything's great. And I would say it was over the holidays that this past holiday, Christmas time, that sitting down and thinking about it over food, ironically eating a really nice meal for Christmas, and getting to think about the impact that I'm actually making with my company, because I've been so busy trying to run it that, I'm losing focus on like really what I'm here for.
Sure. Very easy to do, I imagine.
Yeah. And, because you got to keep the business going.
It's still a business at the same time.
And I look at it and I say, am I really making an impact? Like what's going on here? I'm sending off a check every quarter to Megan Meyer Foundation, and they're a great foundation, completely great foundation. But I want to see, more of an impact. Unfortunately, I don't live there, so I can't see any of the kids on.
There's no way to tangibly see how you're making.
Yeah. So, I took a step back and said, not that bullying's not important. It's important, but with the resources that I have right now, how much can I really impact a kid's life? Mm-hmm. So I took a long step back and got to thinking about maybe changing. And that's when I reached out to my cousin, which is an administrator in the county beside mine where I grew up, one of my old high school teachers. And I spoke to multiple administrators and teachers that were, friends of friends. And I dug in and said, what is it that kids need? How can how can my business help? And I was thinking about, what if I did school supplies, supplied school supplies? And I heard, well, that would be great. That's amazing. However, these are the, my friends and family members that are, friends that are teachers, my old high school teacher, especially. It's like, at the end of the day, Patrick, if a kid doesn't have school supplies, they're going to get it.
Okay.
I said, okay, well, what about school lunches? Provide school lunch, And, well, the problem is that there's programs out there for that, So, kids don't need that. They're based on income, or if a school right now, the school that I went to high school with and junior high with, they provide all students now with free breakfast and free lunch.
Gotcha.
All students.
Okay.
So it's like, well, what can I do? And
it's got to be a little frustrating. You're like, well, I'm trying to help. You're telling me what I can do,
exactly.
dude.
Tell me what I can do. And then after that, unanimously, the first three people I spoke to said, well, really what kids need is they need food for home. Because they got breakfast, they've got lunch at school, but when they go home, a lot of them don't have food.
Disadvantaged kids. Right. Or the weekends, or
the weekends, the holidays, the
school's not there to provide it.
Exactly. So a lot of the kids, if school's not in session, they don't have food. And it was one of those.
That's terrifying.
Wow. Okay, well, what if I did that? What if I provided a bag of groceries for a kid in need for every shirt that I sell? And that's how that came about.
Wow. And was it hard to set up that way?
It wasn't easy. You have the logistical side of it. When you start dealing with schools, it's a completely different world. As much as you don't want it to be political, there's a lot of politics in it. So it wasn't easy. I did say, when I was speaking to, all the, I'd like to call them advisors, but, not advisors. They did advise me. It's not just the fact that some kids don't have, or their parents don't have money to buy it. It's a lot of kids, their parents aren't there for them. Mm-hmm. And so we needed to I needed to make sure the things that I provided were things that, a fifth grader, sixth grader would be able to prepare.
Sure. That makes sense. You can't just give them.
So yeah, it wasn't hard, but it wasn't easy trying to come up with, really how logistically to do it.
But you were going to do it. It was like, this is it.
Once, I was told, by multiple teachers and administrators about this problem and what they do to solve it. There's no programs. There's nothing out there that helps this cause. So what the schools do that I spoke to and the teachers do, they collect donations, and then they take those donations, and the teachers go to the store themselves. They buy groceries and they pack them up, and every week or however often they give out but it's all based off of donations. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, wow, what if I did all that for you? And just when I sell a shirt, I do that. And then we do a food drop and I give you all these bags of groceries and you disperse them to the disadvantaged kids.
Right. So that's what happens. So if you buy a shirt for better, not worse, you give a bag of groceries to a disadvantaged kid.
Correct.
That was the plan.
That was the plan.
Plan actually happens.
The plan actually has happened.
Right. So the date today, I don't know, it's like March 12th, something like that. I don't know when this
11th.
All right, 11th. So, you can get specific, easy. You did your first drop, 4 days ago?
It'll be a week tomorrow.
A week tomorrow. Now, how nervous were you doing the first drop?
The first drop wasn't nervous. It's more exciting than anything.
Like you've put this plan in motion, and it finally happens.
Yeah, it was nervous starting just because it was like, what kind of feedback am I getting? But or not feedback, but what kind of welcome am I going to get at schools? Or people are like, get away from here, little guy with your t-shirt line, But I go back to what I want to do, and I want to make an impact in kids' lives. And with that said, is if I'm going to do that, I know that if anybody tells me, oh, get out of here, fuck you, basically.
Right.
Like, I'm going to do this. Either you're going to be a part of it or not, because there's going to be a lot of kids that I'm going to help, and either you can be a part of it or not.
Right.
So going into that side of it was a little scary, but then it was like, no, it's not scary because I know what I'm doing is good. And fortunately, I was able to meet with Pasadena Unified School District. They've got a department in there called Families in Transition, and great organization with that school district. And they help disadvantaged kids and disadvantaged families for everything from food to hygiene to supplies to clothes, but everything is on donation basis.
Yeah. And you dropped off over 200 bags.
212 bags for our first drop.
First drop.
And
was it everything? I mean, can you describe the day?
It was more than everything I had dreamed of, because it was when like going out and doing the actual shopping, and I've got 3 carts of groceries, and people are looking at me like I'm crazy. Like, what are you doing? I'm just trying to make a difference. That's it. And then when I get to and I take it to the school, and we filmed that thing with CBS and the news, and that was the first time I actually got to meet with some high school students and that volunteered to help out. And meeting these kids that are so thankful, and they're not even a part of the program. They're just thankful for what I'm doing because they see the importance of it. That right there was like, wow, this feels good. But last Saturday, I can tell you, I almost came to tears multiple times. It's these little kids coming and their families. I met this family, and 9 of them 3 years ago were living in a van. 9 kids and the 2 parents. And now they went from a shelter to shelter. Now, they're back on their feet, still hard times. But, seeing this and seeing these people that are grateful and knowing that, I'm given a bag of groceries that, it comes with, 7 items from canned vegetables to soup to granola bars to, macaroni and cheese. And giving this to them and knowing that, wow, at least they've got food for the next ever, it was beyond rewarding.
Yeah. I guess I would ask you, when you started off in the military, making your shirts, DS3, was that it?
DS3. Tagless was the name of the company.
So we're like 20 years later, somewhere out there.
15.
Would you ever imagine you would be in this position? I would assume this makes you push even harder now, seeing it actually have an impact.
Oh yeah, every day I wake up and getting a little more, seeing more of what I'm doing makes me. It's fuel to the fire, and which it hurts my sleeping because I can't sleep because I'm constantly thinking.
Do you have pride? Are you proud of yourself at this point? Nobody likes to say that about themselves.
I'm proud of what I'm doing. When I look at that 212 bags and I hear people like, wow, that's amazing. No, it's not amazing. That's a step. Like, my goal is to be giving tens of thousands of bags every week. And we can do it. I can do it. We can get there. It's going to take time. The second drop is June the 4th. It's 2 days after school ends for summertime, which is, as we know. So my goal there is to do at least 1,000 bags.
Awesome.
And continue to grow. That's my goal. Once again, it's a 1-for-1.
Sure.
I'm not in a nonprofit business. And the reason on that, because a lot of people ask, are you a charity? No, we're not a charity. We're not anything like that. We're a for-profit company. I could have started a business, or I could have started a nonprofit that did the same thing, but then I'm going out and asking for money. And there's nonprofits out there that do that. My goal is, if I can create a sustainable company that has a sustainable flow of groceries and food going to kids in need, that's better. And once again, I do it through the channel of apparel.
Yeah.
It's the only thing I know.
Well, I think it's great, man. And hopefully we can help you out. And, for what it's worth, I'm sure your father and your fellow family members are all very proud of you.
Yeah. FBNW.us is the website.